Alrighty, we'll get started here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining our physical well-being webinar series presented by Affinity Federal Credit Union. Today's topic is our final one, part four, open conversation, answering questions and discussing other topics and more. My name is Nicholas Mataliano, and I'm the Wellbeing Communication Specialist here at Affinity. Today's presenter is Anthony Rusmano, founder of Mana Wellness and personal health coach for exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and the link to watch the presentation again will all be shared within follow-up email that we will send out very soon. If you have any questions you would like to ask during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A option on your panel and we will address them during the webinar. But before we jump in, let's do over a quick disclaimer here. This information is for informational purposes only and is intended to provide general guidance and does not constitute medical advice. Each person's circumstances are different and may not apply to the specific information provided. You should seek the advice of a medical professional to discuss your specific needs before making a dietary or lifestyle commitments regarding the matters related to this webinar. Affinity is not affiliated, nor do they endorse or recommend any of the reference apps, websites, and/or their companies and/or their products or services. Accordingly, Affinity takes no responsibility for the quality or reliability of these products or services offered by these apps, websites, or companies. Thank you, and take it away, Anthony.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nick. And I appreciate everyone for joining in. Word on the street is that we got a bunch of questions, which I'm very excited to dive into. But before we do, I know this is an open conversation, but I always like to close and start these open conversations, but close the webinars with some kind of just summary information. We went through three different topics, right? We went through overall physical well-being that included nutrition, fitness, sleep, and mental health. We talked about physical rehabilitation. We talked about longevity. A lot of really, really good, useful information. But some of you might be kind of sitting there and be like, okay, well, now what? What do I do with all of this? So before we open up for questions, I want to go through what I like to call becoming unrecognizable. Essentially, these are just takeaway items, a list of six things that you can do, daily to-dos, weekly to-dos, that'll actually help you bring all of this together. All of this stuff that we talked about in a really simple task list. All right, so let's go through this. But what is the goal, right? What is the reason behind these webinars? What's the reason behind these six items? And that is what we talk about nonstop about this idea of increasing our longevity, right? We talked about how there's a difference between lifespan and health span when it comes to longevity. Lifespan regarding to the number of years that we live, right? That numerical value, our actual age, the number on our birth certificate, versus our health span, which is the number of years that we live healthy, right? Free from chronic diseases, physical limitations, and cognitive decline. So our goal is to increase our longevity, but not just increase our longevity, increase our health span, the number of years that we are healthy. So that is the goal. So let's jump into these six things, and then we'll jump into some questions. First and foremost, we want to limit our sitting time to about 6 hours per day. All right. And there's a reason I emphasize limit sitting time and not necessarily doing steps, is because this is what we're referring to for general movement, right? We differentiated movement and exercise. Well, when it comes to movement, right, the movement throughout the day, it doesn't necessarily have to be you trying to get as many steps as you can. Is that great? Absolutely. But if we are upright and we're standing and we're on our feet and we're just not sitting, well, this absolutely plays a key difference. So I kind of turn around the steps goal and I change it to more of a sitting goal, and in this case, limit sitting to 6 hours per day. Next is sleeping at least 7 hours per night. But again, that does not tell the whole story. We mentioned in the sleep conversation how duration is very, very important, the quantity of sleep that you get. But if you notice right below it, QQRT, there's four components of sleep that we need to think about. We have the quantity, right, the 7 hours. We have quality, which is how good you sleep. We have regularity, which is how consistent your sleep schedule is, your wake and bedtime is, and then your timing. Are you a morning lark or are you a night owl? So this is very important. However, in this case, with the sleeping over 7 hours, the more hours, the more quantity that you get, it allows more time to get the quality, to get the regularity, to get the timing. So 7 hours per night is very, very important. Something that you're not going to just be able to do at a snap of a finger, something that you're going to have to work on over time. And if you fail, it's okay. Just move on and try again. All right, then we have consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. All right, this is a nutrition perspective that I want to give here, where if we are consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, right, that's the body that you want to get to, whether you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, or even maintain. What this is going to allow you to do is two things. Number one, it's going to allow you to maintain or gain lean muscle. Muscle is very, very important for longevity, but very, very important also for our metabolism, right? The burning of calories, the burning of energy. So if we have more muscle mass, we're going to be burning more calories, more energy throughout the day, which is very, very good for our longevity as well. And especially if you're trying to lose weight, that is so important too. So 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. That's also going to help with bone health. So as we age, we actually peak in bone mineral density, the mass of our bones, and from there we are going to naturally decline. How fast we decline depends on our lifestyle. Protein is one of those things that can delay that decline. Alrighty, another nutrition one. Drink half an ounce to 1 ounce of water per pound of ideal body weight. All right, this is going to be so important. I don't think I need to emphasize the importance of water, but we are made up of water. Everything that our body does, every function that it has, is driven by water or needs water to function. So we absolutely need water. This is a reminder for us all, even myself, that we got to keep track of our water intake. Alrighty. Then getting into more of the exercise piece, right? We covered the movement side of it with the limit sitting time. Now let's talk about a little bit from the exercise piece. We really want to focus on resistance training at least 2 days per week, right? The general movement is going to help with cardio, and of course, we want to get other cardiovascular activity in, just like we mentioned in the first webinar. But resistance training at least 2 days per week goes back to what we were mentioning with the 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, where we're really trying to maintain slash gain lean muscle and bone mineral density, the mass of our bones. These two things are one of the most important things that we can do from a longevity standpoint. If we want to live healthy, upright, keep our body moving, prevent injury. We talked about this in the rehabilitation webinar. This is so important. Just start at 2 days per week, right? Full body days, and then you can work up from there. You can change around the body parts. You can split it up however you like. But the starting point, we're looking for 2 days per week. All right, and then last but certainly not least, we want to allocate 5 to 60 minutes of personal time. This falls under the category of mental health, the relationship that we have with ourselves. It is one of the most important relationships that we have. We talk about it whether we're talking about it in business, in our careers, in our personal lives. Relationships is everything. But what we seem to miss out on the most is that relationship with ourselves. And it's the most important one that we should focus on, the most important one that we can build. So allocating, I know it's a wide range, 5 to 60 minutes, but it's a wide range for a reason because some people need 5 minutes, some people need 60, some people need 120 minutes. Whatever that is, whatever gets you to that state where you're happy, you're proud, you're fulfilled with yourself, you build that relationship with yourself. That's what we're looking for. So these are the 6 things that the summary of not only these past 4 webinars, but really the summary of how I like to help people just get healthier in general. Again, whether they're focused on longevity, weight management, athletic performance, no matter what, these are the core, these are the foundation, these are the focus. So we will shift over to questions. I will leave this up for a few minutes, and then I'm sure we're going to touch on some of these again with the questions. So feel free to put them in the chat. But I know, Nick, you mentioned you had a bunch, so we can jump right into it.
Awesome, perfect. So we got a bunch of different ones, some touching on nutrition, some touching on fitness, mental health, sleep, and longevity. So let's jump into the nutrition ones first. What
Hmm.
are the long-term effects of a high sugar diet on your overall physical health?
Great question. Um, Many, 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 unfortunately. The reason that sugar in particular is one of the best things that we can remove from our diet is a couple of things. And it does depend on the person, right? It depends on what you're eating outside of that. It depends on your daily movement, your exercise. But when it comes to sugar, we are consuming way more sugar than we used to at an abnormal rate. And that's just because of how easily accessible it is. But the more scary part is it's actually processed sugar. So this is the kind of differentiation I want to make. We have natural sugars coming from fruit, honey, maple syrup, these things. But then also we have these processed and fake sugars, and that's what's coming from these ultra processed and processed foods, like some of your candies, all that kind of stuff that we know. Those not only are they sugar, but they're processed sugars. And what's happening is they are having a direct effect on our health inside our body. When we consume a lot of those sugars, what happens is we see a rise in our blood sugar. This causes two things. One, we can get rid of that sugar in our blood and take it up by our muscle, but that's only if we are very physically active. And I'm more talking to endurance athletes, and more elite athletes. They're going to be using that sugar for fuel because carbohydrates are one of our main fuel sources. However, if you are not physically active and your sugars are not being used in the muscle for fuel, what happens is then your body is forced to take up that sugar and store it. And to do that, it uses insulin. And we want to be very, very careful of how much we're messing with insulin and how much we're relying on it because this leads to what's called insulin sensitivity. And then that's what leads to diabetes. So long-winded answer, but the reason I want to go in depth about this is because sugar is one of those pieces of advice that I give to everyone. If you can limit your sugar, specifically your added sugar. So one last thing that I'll add is on the nutrition label, you'll see two versions of sugar. You'll see total sugars and then you'll see added sugars. The added sugars are in most cases the fake sugar that they put into the product. Where if you see a difference, say there's 20 grams of sugar, total sugar, but 18 grams of added sugar, then you could assume that only two of those grams of sugar are coming from natural sources. So just something to think about as well.
Awesome. Another nutrition question we have here is how does intermittent fasting impact metabolism and energy levels?
Great question. So it's hard to say first and foremost because there is plenty of research out there about intermittent fasting, and it also depends on how you are using it because what most people think about intermittent fasting isn't actually intermittent fasting. Most people think about scheduled eating, which is an 8-hour eating window with a 16-hour fast or 12 and 12. That's what's referred to as scheduled eating. Intermittent fasting, on the other hand, is more going periods of a long fast, whether that's 24 hours, 48 hours, some of these. Um, Again, with the research in these, there's definitely research showing some positive benefits, especially even on our metabolism. However, I am from the standpoint of I don't believe you need to do those extreme diets or those extreme things in order to boost your metabolism. For most people, what they should be focusing on before jumping into any of those is they should be focusing on the core stuff, right? Is your nutrition primarily unprocessed and real whole foods? If the answer is no, I would think about that before you get into intermittent fasting. From an exercise and movement standpoint, are you meeting the general recommendations, but then are you exceeding those as well to really optimize your physical well-being? Right? There's so many of these other things that we can do and probably need to be doing to optimize our metabolism before we want to jump into any of the extremes. But to answer your question, there is absolutely research showing that it does help with metabolism. It does help with things regarding cancer. It does help with things regarding cognitive function. But that would be my take.
Perfect. Last nutrition question we have here is what are the most nutrient-dense foods that support immune function?
I love that. Um, Well, the easiest answer is real whole unprocessed food. I know I sound like a broken record, but I cannot emphasize this enough. If you're eating foods that are not in packages and that are not in plastic, you're eating produce, fresh meats, good quality of them, getting organic. These are the best things that you can do for, yes, immunity, but everything overall. The reason for immunity specifically is because a lot of the things when it comes to immunity that we're dealing with is inflammation. And all of the not I don't want to say all, but most of the processed foods and ultra processed foods, aka what we're typically eating throughout the day, are inflammatory foods, meaning they cause inflammation in our body, which is going to lead to a wreck in our immune system. So my biggest recommendation when it comes to nutrition for our immune system is real, whole, unprocessed foods. And then from there, then you can think about some other stuff that's going to directly impact immunity, like getting in antioxidants, probiotics for your gut health, prebiotics for your gut health, so on and so forth. The list goes on.
Got it. Let's jump into our next topic here. The people asked about is fitness, and we actually have one in the Q&A here as well. So let me read this one first. We have why resistance training is needed, and I think 5 to 60 minutes of personal time is per day. Wanted to confirm.
So I'll confirm the personal time. It is, as I mentioned, it is a wide range because that just depends on the person in terms of like how much they need. Some people only need 5 minutes, some people need 60. So essentially, what you're just doing is taking time out of your day for personal time. And that personal time is whatever you prefer, whatever relaxes you, whatever makes you happy. If that's just thinking, if that's playing a game, if that's watching TV, I would recommend trying to do anything off social media or entertainment and just trying to be with yourself. But yes, 5 to 60 minutes, anything that you can get in is awesome. Why is resistance training needed? Great question. The biggest reason we need resistance training is for our muscles, muscle mass. As we age, I mentioned this previously, but as we age, we decline in two things: muscle mass and bone mineral density, the mass of our bones. Resistance training is going to help increase slash maintain our muscle mass, but then it's also going to help delay the decline of our bone mineral density. Okay, so when it comes to muscle mass, we must be doing resistance training, right? Whether that's body weight, resistance bands, free weights, cycling, the pool, all of these things that involve an external load. That's what resistance is. They're going to have cause adaptations in your muscles and bones and positive ones. If we are not resistance training and we are not even consuming enough protein as well, then we're not giving our body what it needs to maintain and gain that lean muscle and that bone. So therefore, it's going to follow that normal trajectory of decline. And from a longevity standpoint, if we're trying to increase our health span, those are two things that we do not want to decline.
Awesome. We have another one here. Fitness. What type of physical activity is recommended for optimal cardiovascular health?
Great, great question. I would say a variety of both. We mentioned some of the different types of cardiovascular activity in the first webinar. I know it was a while ago, so I'll give you a nice little refresh. We want to get a variety of low intensity cardio and high intensity cardio. And what we're talking about here is just different ranges of your heart rate. So a way to think about a low intensity cardio is a breathing rate where you are able to hold a conversation with someone. Say you're maybe walking on the treadmill or you're using the stairmaster or going for a run. If you can have a full conversation without taking any skips in breath or pauses, that would say is a low intensity, what's called zone 2 heart rate. That is what you should be doing for a long duration, right? Whether that's 60 minutes or in a session, or what we're trying to get is 150 minutes per week. At the same time, you also want to get more high intensity cardiovascular activity. All right, this from a heart rate standpoint, from a using the analogy of talking, this is where you wouldn't be able to hold a full conversation. You might be able to talk to someone next to you, but you're going to be taking breaths in between, and it probably won't be as fun. This is more intense cardiovascular activity, and we want to shoot for about 75 minutes per week. That's going to be anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes a session. So low intensity, where you can have a conversation, but you want longer duration, about 150 minutes per week, or high intensity cardiovascular activity, looking for 75 minutes per week and a combination of them.
Got it. Actually, just to springboard off of that, we have another one that's kind of around the same topic is what are the benefits and risks of high intensity interval training versus steady state cardio?
Yes, so that is exactly what I was just referring to when I said low intensity cardio and high intensity. So the biggest difference here is our heart rate. At the high intensity training modalities, you're going to have a much higher heart rate, which means you're not going to be able to sustain it as long, right? The lower intensity cardio, you want to be longer duration because it's lower intense, you're going to be able to sustain it a lot longer. I would say getting a nice variety of both of them. When they're talking about general recommendations, I mentioned the 150 minutes or the 75 minutes. Um, this is where they really try to emphasize getting the variety of them. Where if you can get 150 minutes of that low intensity, that would be great. 75 minutes of that high intensity, that would be great. Or again, you can get a combination of them both. So I would recommend the combination if you're looking days per week. Again, tough to say because it depends on fitness level, it depends on your goals. But I would say if you can get at least 1 to 2 sessions of each of those in, that would be a very, very great starting point.
Love it, love it. All right, let's jump into the next kind of group we have of questions here is around mental health. First one here is how does regular physical activity influence mood and mental resilience?
Mm, absolutely love this. And love this question because it's actually one of the things that I recommend the most when it comes to mental health and emotional regulation. I think a key missing piece that would help a lot of people is if they are trying to say, let's just start with more of an acute mental health example where we're talking about just general stress from work, from life, general anxiety on a daily basis, these kind of things, or just moods of low, being low or lethargic, anything where you're just not feeling great on a day-to-day basis. Physical activity can really snap you out of it, especially physical activity that is outside and a little challenging. The reason being is because number one, if you're outside, you're getting sunlight, right? So you're getting vitamin D, you're getting fresh air, one of the best things that you can do for mental health and mood. Then on top of that, when it comes to physical activity and mental health, this is not only short term, but this is gonna lead into that long term mental health aspect of it. When we do physical activity, we release hormones, and these hormones are literally happy hormones. They make us feel good. This is why, after every workout that you do, no matter how bad you didn't want to do it, you feel so good. That's because these endorphins, these happy hormones, are released from the body after physical activity and during physical activity. So, from a daily, day to day standpoint, that is why if you're just feeling down, going for a walk or a run, especially outside, or just doing movement in general, can completely change your day around. And then, on a long term, more chronic standpoint, those endorphins are going to really help just completely regulate the mood, regulate the state of your mental health. And this doesn't even go into what physical activity does for our brain, for cognitive function, but then general health, which is also just going to help like our total body health, which is also going to help our mental health as well.
Awesome. That actually answered two of the questions we had there. So let's jump into the next topic of sleep. How does sleep quality affect metabolism, weight regulation, and immune function?
Great question. Sleep has a direct correlation with our metabolism, which is for everyone, the term metabolism, what we quite literally mean is the burning of energy. So in this case, the burning of calories. Calories are a form of energy. We consume them and then we also use them. So that's what metabolism is. When it comes to sleep, sleep is how our body, when we are sleeping, getting good quality sleep, all stages of sleep, REM, NREM, we are resetting the body. And the only time the body can fully reset is when we sleep. And part of that reset process comes down to our metabolism. This is just one of many, many things that go through this reset, but our metabolism is one of them. And what I mean by that is when we are sleeping, this is where we can most efficiently utilize, store, and then also regulate all of those calories, right? Carbohydrates, dietary fats, proteins. This is where we can organize, store, and use all of these nutrients. If you're not getting enough sleep, for example, one of my favorite fun facts to bring up when we're talking about metabolism sleep, if many people might not know this, but when we actually burn body fat, when we're losing weight, The way that we do that is we actually breathe it out. And we breathe out our body fat because it comes out in the form of CO2. We breathe out our body fat when we sleep. So this is just a fun little example to show how important sleep is for our metabolism because it allows it to go through that process. So if you are on a weight loss journey and you're struggling with getting, maybe you plateaued and you're struggling getting past that next point, and you're doing really well with your nutrition and your activity, my guess is sleep is not where it should be.
Awesome, awesome. Alrighty, and then we have another one here on longevity. What lifestyle habits have been consistently linked to increasing lifespan and health span?
Right here. These are the lifestyle habits I would recommend through and through. Trying to keep it really simple. And again, you do not have to do all of these at once. Look at all of them, figure out which ones you are doing, check them off, be consistent with them on a daily basis, but then figure out which ones you are not doing. And then really focus on them. When it comes to these lifestyle habits, these incorporate a lot of the things that we talk about in our webinars, right? We talked about nutrition, fitness, sleep, mental health. Those are all lifestyle habits that we can develop. And what we just went through were specific things, right? Physical rehabilitation, we went through a bunch of stuff there. All of these things are very, very important small habits that we need to do on a daily and consistent basis. We're talking about longevity. We are talking about a lifelong process. There is no short fix, there is no quick fix. It's going to come down to how I like to call mastering the mundane, right? Doing the things that may not be eye appealing or attracting, but the stuff that works, and that's this list of what I recommend.
Awesome. Another one here is there any sort of health screenings that would be good for longevity and living a healthy, long life?
Great question. I love this. I am of the standpoint where I think, in general, our recommendations on testing across the board is too late. I think we have these general recommendations that you should get this test at this age, that test at this age. In my opinion, test as much as you can for as much as you can handle. If you have the means to do it and you don't mind spending the money because it's a lifelong investment, I would say continually test, whether that's annually, monthly, quarterly, whatever it is, test, test, test. Because the worst thing that happens in a test is that you get the answer that you actually want and need to get. The best thing that happens is nothing, right? Nothing comes up that's alarming. Great, that's awesome. We keep moving forward. But if you're getting consistent and reoccurring tests, then you're going to be able to stay on top of everything. What I would say is a complete metabolic panel, right? You can get this at a lab corp, you can get this any local, and also your physician can recommend it as well. But a complete metabolic panel will include blood work, right? So all of your blood work that includes your lipid panel, it'll include your micronutrients. It'll also include maybe a hormone panel. Some of these tests you might have do add-ons and stuff like that. But I think those are the most important. And I'll give a recommendation. One of the companies that I use, I have no affiliation with it. I love it. It's called Function Health. They're really good because they actually for $500 you get two tests for the entire year. You can do one in the beginning and one at the end, and then you can compare the two. But it gives you unlimited tests. It gives you all the results. It gives you all the data. All you have to do is go in and get your blood work done. So I would say a complete metabolic panel, and there's plenty of companies out there that are doing them.
Awesome. And this is the last one here from our members that they called in beforehand. Is there any type of physical activity that are most effective for maintaining strength and mobility going into those older years?
Yes, so resistance training. Resistance training is where you really want to focus on for gaining strength. Resistance training will help with mobility for sure because it's also going to help with your range of motion and your strength of your tendons, right, around your joints. Um, Mobility specifically, stretching, static and dynamic stretching, but I would recommend more dynamic stretching. So stretching while you're moving. But when it comes to resistance training, the reason this is so important for maintaining or gaining muscle is because, like I mentioned before with the previous question, you are putting that external load, that external weight on our muscle, which is what is needed for it to grow and adapt. When I'm speaking about resistance training, my biggest recommendations would be if you have access to a gym, going in, utilizing the machines. It shows the muscle groups that are being worked on there, and just try to get one exercise or two exercises per muscle group, right? We have our chest, we have our shoulders, we have our back, we have our legs. You just really want to get one to two exercises per muscle group on those machines. If you're comfortable with free weights, you can totally do that. That would be my recommendation inside the gym. Outside the gym, you can do a lot of body weight work or light work, resistance bands, push-ups, pull-ups, these kind of things. All depends on your starting point, all depends on your goal. But yes, when it comes to age, absolutely resistance training for mobility and strength.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that was all the questions beforehand, but please, anybody, if you guys have any other questions you'd like to ask, please throw that in the Q&A option, and we will get right to it. So I'll give you guys a few seconds, a few minutes. Before we go, actually, Anthony, if you want to share some of the online coaching stuff, just a little more
Mhm.
detail on that, I think that'd be helpful to the membership as well.
Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to. So, online coaching, we actually through our app. This is brand new as of 2 weeks ago, which we're very very excited about. We launched our own app where we actually have online coaches in the app. So our app has exercise tracking, logging, and progress track and progress performance metrics, but it also has nutrition resources and the ability to sign up with one of our one-on-one coaches. So if you're looking all kind of ranges, whether that's strength and conditioning or registered dietitian or general health, longevity, whatever it may be, we have a coach in our app that is ready to work with you one on one. So if you are looking for more of a personalized one on one coaching, dealing directly with what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, that would be my biggest recommendation. If you're looking to kind of get your foot in the door, not necessarily needing the one on one coaching, I would recommend just getting the Mono Wellness app for your exercise tracking, for the nutrition resources, and our community as well. But yes, for online coaching, it is all done through our app.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony. And it looks like that is all the questions for today. So I will thank you all for joining tonight, taking the time out of your day for to learn about all the different things Anthony has to share with us on physical well-being, physical health, and all that good stuff. Anthony, if you want to close it out, I'll give it up to you.
Yeah, thank you all very, very much. These past four webinars has have been absolutely awesome. I'll say these past 10 have been absolutely awesome. I hope to definitely do more in the future, which I believe we will. But like I said, if you need to reach out to me with questions, you can scan that QR code. All of our contact information is on there. If you reach out, it'll go to me, so you'll be in direct contact with me. My email is my first and last name, Anthony Rusumano at monowellness.co.co. Again, do not hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help with anything.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony, and everyone have a great rest of your night.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.